question most of us probably come up against on almost a daily basis these days: where and when should you be wearing a mask? Well, a group of Alberta doctors is saying more often. Here to tell us a little bit more is Dr. Amy Tan. She's an associate professor in the Cummings School of Medicine in the Family Medicine Department at the University of Calgary. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what are doctors calling for as far as the use of masks?
So I'm part of a group of physicians, scientists, and concerned citizens across Canada. We're called Masks for Canada. And what we're calling on is for mandating of masks in high-risk situations as the economy reopens to both protect the economy and also save lives.
So when we are talking about mandating, when would they need to be used and absolutely need to be used?
Yeah. So we are requesting for three things. So we're under the acronym ACT. A, all indoor spaces, so grocery stores, libraries, etc. C, crowds, so crowds both indoor and outdoors. And T, transit. So those are the places that we think are most high risk in terms of people being in closer quarters, not being able to appropriately physically distance, and also be in contact with the more vulnerable populations that would be more at risk of perhaps having more severe COVID illness if they were to get it.
So right now, I know it's a little bit of a hodgepodge out there. Most of us probably have masks at this point. I know they are available at many drive-through locations across the province, so they are available to Albertans. But most of us are probably weighing the risk kind of on an internal basis. Is this just taking that out of the equation, everybody's personal risk levels?
Yes, so we know on a population level, there's been a very recent study that came out of Germany where in a city where there was mandated masking, the spread of the virus went down 40% 2 weeks later. So we are asking for Albertans to look out for each other, to protect the economy, to protect members in the community, including themselves, and work together to help bring down the spread by doing this one individual thing of wearing a mask.
I think there's a lot of confusion, especially early in the pandemic, as to whether they were effective, and you just referenced the study that says that it is effective, and as to how they are being used, who should be using them, that sort of thing. Are there still a lot of myths, misconceptions, and maybe misuses out there?
I think so. This is a very unique situation. We are in a rapidly evolving situation with a brand new virus that has been in existence for maybe 6-7 months. And so what we're seeing is the evolution and the change of science. And so we know now more than we did 5 months ago. And there's been many studies in the last even 1 week that have shown more and more evidence that masks, and we're talking about homemade cloth masks, are effective along with other distancing measures, keeping 2 meters apart, keeping your hand hygiene up. All of those things combined do help with the spread of the virus, especially as we reopen and we start interacting more with each other.
Now, I know those of us with kids, perhaps are wondering if kids should also be wearing them, and there's been some mixed messaging there as well. Is it a matter of the more the better as far as educating and trying to make this a new norm?
Yes, I think until we have a vaccine, which will not unfortunately be for a while, if we want to be able to, do some of the things that we can to increase our quality of life and not be in full lockdown, we're asking for and aiming for 80% of the population to be wearing masks. And the studies again show that might be enough so that those who have to opt out for either medical reasons or because they're too young, psychological concerns, they can opt out. But overall, the community spread of the virus will still be contained. So for children, some of them definitely age 2 and under shouldn't be wearing masks. For the younger ones, the toddlers and the preschoolers, it might be difficult. Sometimes you can help train them at home, but hopefully with the older children, the teenagers, they can also start to partake in this as well.
And I know what we're seeing from some of the numbers really across the country, it seems in the last couple of weeks, there's been a bit of an uptick in the virus in younger people. Is this an important message to be hitting home as far as making sure people aren't getting a little lax or overly comfortable now that things are starting to open up again, especially maybe in those younger demographics?
Yeah, so there's 2 points that I want to make with regards to the younger demographic. First of all, they are probably, and we're talking about the age 25 to 50 age group, they are probably the ones who are more apt to want to get out after having been quarantined for a while. But first of all, they're the ones who actually could spread it to the more vulnerable populations. So essential workers, those who are elderly, those who have chronic diseases that would make them more at risk of having more severe disease. But I also want to point out that while the media, and we've been talking a lot about the more severe disease and the more mild disease, there's actually now more and more information that the younger population, this population, seems to be getting COVID-19 in a way that might not make them go to the ICU, but they would have symptoms for weeks on end. And we just don't know the longer term outcomes of COVID-19 because it is so new. So, really urging people to be very vigilant as they continue to venture out now.
And then I guess just to return to your call to action again, what would you really like to see? Would you like to see government then come out and say, absolutely, we need to have the population wearing masks? Is that where you would like to see this go? And perhaps if not government, then the rest of us buying in?
Yeah, I think if we can do both, if we can have the government actually give cover to businesses to have more of a no mask, no service type of mindset, but also for all of us to buy in that collectively we can actually influence whether or not a second wave comes and to what extent. It really is on us. And so, we think while there are going to be people who have to opt out, we're hoping most will naturally opt in and work together to bring down community spread as we protect the economy.
I guess it's the new norm that you have to double check, much like you did with the reusable grocery bags. Make sure you have those masks packed anytime you're running your errands and doing your outings. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That's again Dr. Amy Tan, and she is the Associate Professor in the Department of Family Medicine at the University of Calgary's Cummings School of Medicine.